This is Jerry Coleman, play-by-play voice of the Dothan High Wolves on 96.9 The Legend, and you're tuned into the Phillip Jordan podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. I am Phillip Jordan, in-studio host and producer of Dothan Football on 96.9 The Legend, and also staff writer for the Auburn Wire, part of USA Today. We have a fun show planned for you guys today. Going to be joined by Jacob Goins from ESPN 106.7 in Auburn, where he is the host of On the Line Monday through Friday 2 to 4. Also, voice of the Auburn High Tigers, and also the host of Locked On Hoosiers, where he talks about the Indiana Hoosiers every single day. We will talk with him about Auburn's 31-15 win over South Alabama and just kind of get Jacob's kind of thoughts on Auburn so far this year. And we'll look ahead to this week's matchup, SEC opener for Auburn as they travel to take on Oklahoma. I'm also going to open with three thoughts I had coming out of the game on Saturday for myself before we jump into that conversation. Just kind of a little housekeeping, let you guys know what's going on here. So last week we did the full show. Taylor Jones was on with me. We also had JT Crabtree, who is the voice of South Alabama. So the weekend I got to thinking about it. It may be more beneficial. More people may like to jump on and check out the show. We split that up. Instead of doing one long hour, over an hour episode, we'll do maybe a 35-minute episode, 2 of those, or maybe 3 of those a week. I'm still debating on doing one on the weekend reacting to the Auburn game. That is still on the table. So 2 this week, maybe 3 next week. We'll see how I'm feeling about that with that. So that's kind of what you'll be expecting. So later on in the week, there will be a Oklahoma game preview, and I do have somebody lined up that covers Oklahoma to come on the show. But before we do all that, of course, you can find a podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Please subscribe to both. Really appreciate it, especially if you're an Auburn fan, and share it out with all your friends. Like I said, this is now mostly an Auburn podcast. We will dive into some grand scheme SEC things from time to time here on the show, but that's kind of like where we're living now. We're living on the plains with Auburn. So now let's jump to some thoughts I had on Auburn's win over South Alabama on Saturday. Auburn came into the game as a 23.5-point favorite. Obviously, they did not cover that. I thought they would. I had picked Auburn to win 38-14. So South Alabama gets scored, but Auburn didn't score as I thought. Auburn was kind of sluggish, I will admit, on Saturday. It kind of felt slow, and Auburn's been victim to this before when they're playing at 11 o'clock, the 12 o'clock window of games. And I think Jackson Arnold was okay. He was efficient. He didn't do anything really to really pop out, going 13-24, 142 with the 1 touchdown. Jeremiah Cobb was good again, 19 carries, 119 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Jackson Arnold was the second leading rusher with 2 touchdowns. And we didn't see much out of the running backs. Omar Mavson was the only other running back to carry the ball. And I still got to think maybe he's just being held back a little bit just because he's not quite there on pass protection. And that's where you need to be. And that's young running backs going from high school to college and then college to pro, the pass protection part of it. I think if they needed him, Damari Austin could have went. He was dressing him, but he just is not playing. Of course, Terrell Robinson being out. But the running game was great. And Auburn jumps out to 28-9 at halftime. I'm thinking, okay. And I was there. I went to the game. And I was thinking, okay, Auburn will come out third quarter, another touchdown or 2, really put distance in herself in this game. We'll see some backups. We'll see some players that we hadn't seen early in the game. Well, then South Alabama had other ideas. They outscored Auburn 6-3, and they really had an opportunity to make it a 1-score game there in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter, before Jared Smith had that forced fumble on Bishop Davenport, the quarterback, and then also with that, Xavier Atkins picked up the ball, and Auburn pretty much just ran the clock there. And then Hugh Freeze said after the game that he was conservative, 2 touchdowns, but I think Auburn fans want to see a little bit of that, and it's kind of one of them things now. Okay, so the Baylor game, you knew what they had to do or what they were doing. Baylor was playing 2 high safeties in the game. You're going to run the ball. Auburn ran over 300 yards with Damari Alston, with Jeremiah Cobb, and also Jackson Arnold. And then against Ball State, you didn't really see it much, but you try not to show too much. And against South Alabama, and I'll say this about South Alabama, they only lost 2 points at Tulane. This is a good South Alabama team. They're going to be in conversations for the Sun Belt Championship game. I'm just going to say that about South. But still, you will expect more. I think a lot of Auburn people are starting to wonder, okay, you have not seen the explosive plays in the past game. You put all the money into your quarterback, into your receivers, and Cam Coleman, and also Eric Singleton Jr., and we're not really seeing a lot of deep shots. Auburn's just basically nickel and dime their way down the field. They're using a lot of the running game, which the run game's been really good. But now you're going into SEC play. How is that going to play out? And defensively right now for Auburn, they're giving up a lot of chunk plays in the pass game. It's like they're keeping everything in front of them. Now they're doing well. They did against Baylor. They held Baylor out of the end zone a couple times. And then also they did it with South Alabama. But again, you're going to Oklahoma this week. So I'm cautious with it. I'm not saying I think Auburn's not maybe as good as advertised. They did go up in the rankings. AP poll, they went to number 22. And I'm not concerned from that point. I think they can beat Oklahoma. I do. Not giving my pick yet. That's going to be later on in the week. But I think it's like the first week of the season, everybody's excited to beat Baylor. Baylor's a good team, and Baylor's played well, 2-1. Had that epic back and forth game with SMU. They took care of business against Stanford. They're putting up passing yards. Sorry, Robertson's doing to everybody else what did Auburn, so it makes you feel better. But there's still some things in the secondary I think needs to be cleaned up. I think up front they're good. Obviously, they're tied in the SEC lead for sacks with 11 with Tennessee. The linebackers are playing much better. I mentioned Xavier Atkins playing well. You got Riddick there as well. So I think the Auburn defense up the front seven is okay, but the secondary is still, I think, causing some issues. So we'll see how that goes. But SEC play coming up is a big week. It's going to be interesting with everything going on with that. All right, now I'm going to play my conversation. I recorded this earlier on Monday. This is actually before he did his show. This was before he Freeze even spoke on Monday. So we're going to jump into that with Jacob Goins, and then I'm going to kind of do quickly a look at what happened in the SEC over the weekend and get some social media comments about how people are feeling about the Auburn Tigers as they head into that matchup with the hated Oklahoma Sooners. All right, everybody, joining me on the show this week for my Auburn guest is Jacob Goins. You can check him out on the Line Monday through Friday on ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Also, voice of the Auburn High Tiger. So he's getting to see some continuation of one of their guys there at Auburn University after he was at Auburn High. Also, you can check him out on Locked On Hoosiers every day, talking all things Indiana Hoosiers. And Jacob, appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on once again. And it's a busy time. SEC play getting started for the university. And look, high school, you know as well as I do, we're deep into region play. So there's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of good stuff going on with both of them. And let everybody know, recording this on Monday, about an hour and a half before Jacob is going on the air with this show.
Yep.
And, just real quickly, I'm just a nerd for radio stuff. It's just, I'm very nerdy about this stuff. What does daily prep look like for you guys for the radio show every day?
Well, right now with football season, thankfully there's a lot going on, right? So Monday, it's obviously just a big recap. We talk a lot of Auburn, and we'll hit the SEC and some of the big storylines. I mean, heck, you had 2 coaches fired over the weekend, not in the SEC, but one in the ACC, one in the Big Ten. So my co-host, Christian Griffin, and I, we sit down probably 30, 45 minutes before and just basically have a rundown. We talk about, okay, what do we want to hit today? What do we want to hit tomorrow? What do we want to go on the rest of the week? And, we'll pull stats and storylines, and Hugh Freeze will meet with the media in about an hour from now when you and I are talking. So we'll pull some clips and stuff from that. And really, during football season, a lot of the shows kind of write themselves. You just kind of hit on the big topics and give some takes and see what people have on their minds. And then you just kind of go from there.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be a very active audience listening in after Auburn's 31-15 win over South Alabama. Started out great. I was there. I was in the stands watching the game, 28-9 at halftime. And Jacob, I was kind of thinking, okay, we're looking at Auburn adds a couple touchdowns here in the third quarter. Get in the 40s. We may see some guys, getting some extra playing time, but that didn't happen. South Alabama outscored Auburn 6-3 there in the second half. Even Hugh Freeze admitted, though, that he kind of went conservative with the play calling with the 2-touchdown lead. Overall, what were your thoughts coming out of Saturday with Auburn's victory?
I think it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. We talked all week last week about this was a game that you weren't trying to get any style points in. You weren't expecting to go in here and win this game 70-0, like we've seen some of these other P4 teams do against non-conference opponents. South Alabama's legit. I mean, that's a team that's going to compete for their conference this year, a team that gave Tulane everything they wanted, and Tulane's a team that's favored to make the college football playoff out of the group of 5. And so I think South Alabama is a really talented team. They're a really good offense, and Auburn did what they needed to do to win this football game. You stay relatively healthy. You played a lot of guys that don't normally play, and there were some guys that didn't play in this game, right? On offense and on defense. Damari Alston didn't play. Darrell Robinson didn't play. You start looking on the defensive side of the football. Champ Anthony didn't play, right? And so you have guys that could have played if it was an SEC game, but they didn't, and you still got the job done. And I know it was a little dicey, and it was technically a fourth quarter game, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But this game, the result was never in doubt, and Auburn won by 2 scores. You got in, you got out, and you did what you needed to do, but you also didn't give anything up. Right? I mean, you didn't do anything that you haven't already done this year. You didn't break out any special plays or formations or give anything away for Oklahoma this weekend. It was very vanilla. And so my takeaway is you're 3-0, and not every team in the SEC can say that. You're the only team in the state of Alabama that can say that. And so I think it's fine. I think Auburn played well, did what they needed to do, and I think there's a lot of hype and buzz going into this weekend against Oklahoma and Norman.
Yeah, I think that's the thing where you can look at it both ways. That obviously Auburn knows, especially after the Baylor game, these last 2 weeks they don't need to show a whole lot,
right?
I know a lot of people are worried about the wide receiver, the deep shots, the deep plays, the explosive plays of wide receivers. But at the same time, you can say, okay, we know we're going to win these games. Let's get ready for Oklahoma, which we don't want to show them too much. So I think it's kind of like both sides of that coin. But at the same time, you do see a lot of people, I think Auburn fans, I don't think the experts or people like yourself or, anybody that does this talking about this team has really not gone on too much for this, but the explosive plays receivers. Beginning of the year, you got Blitnikoff Award nominees in Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton Jr. Eric Singleton did a lot on the sweep plays. I think that's what he's touching the most. Cam Coleman did have the long touchdown on Saturday, but outside of that, we haven't seen a lot of explosive plays. Is that any concern for you?
No, it's really not, because when you look back at what defenses have done so far to Auburn in the first 3 games, they're scared to death of Auburn going deep on them. They are scared to death of Auburn's receivers running past them, going deep, throwing deep balls, go routes, all these big playmakers on the outside, like Eric Singleton or Cam Coleman or Perry Thompson, right? All these guys, defenses have been so worried about them. They're playing 6, 7, 8 yards off and just dropping back and keeping everything in front of them. And so Auburn hasn't had to throw it deep or go deep or try to go over the top because defenses are preventing it. And what's been so refreshing is Hugh Freeze and this offense taking advantage of that. And taking what the defense gives you, right? I mean, that's been a big message the first 3 weeks of the season is, all right, you're going to put 4 in the box. All right, we'll run the football then. Okay, you're going to play 8, 10 yards off of our receivers. Cool, we'll throw little out routes, hitch routes, screens, and we'll take 6, 7, 8 yards that you're going to give us. And eventually, and it could happen this weekend, Oklahoma, I think, could do it, but somebody will. They're going to put 6 or 7 in the box. They're going to play one-on-one on the outside, and they're going to make Jackson Arnold beat you with his arm. I think he can, and I think this receiving class and this receiving group is good enough to do so, but we haven't had to do that yet. Auburn hasn't had to do that in any of their games so far, so I'm not concerned with it. I'm not, because what have the receivers done to not give you confidence in them, right? I mean, it truly is defenses not allowing you to do it, and Auburn simply not pushing the narrative yet.
Yeah, and when they have got the opportunities, they've made plays, the receivers. Not many drops. I think Horatio Fields had one there, but he was getting hit at the same time. let that one go. But yeah, the receivers have played well there in running game. I swear, Jake, sometimes, especially that first game I was watching, I said, is that Gus Malzahn on the sidelines, not Hugh Freeze?
Yeah.
Because, he even mentioned after the game when they beat Baylor, they had to swallow his pride a little bit and not want to throw the ball over 300 yards rushing. But I think one of the good things, the positives that's come out of these first 3 games, and them running the ball a lot more. I think a lot of people were hoping, we're all about expectation. I think people were just expecting Auburn to be just this complete air show. But Jeremiah Cobb, and with the injury to Austin and now Darrell Robinson being out for an extended time, he's really stepped up. I think he's really showing the running back I think a lot of Auburn people thought he was going to be when he arrived on campus.
Jeremiah Cobb looks really, really good. I mean, he looks really solid. And if you remember, what his entire career has been at Auburn has just been the jet sweep, bring him in motion, pitch play, throw it out wide, and let him outrun somebody. I was concerned coming into this year, just being honest. I was concerned about him running between the tackles. I didn't think he was big enough. I didn't think he was strong enough. I didn't think he was that type of a back. And my goodness, he has proven me wrong, because he looks like an SEC back. And the fact that he's gotten as many reps as he has, unfortunately, because of the shoulder issue with DA and the freak incident with Darrell, Jeremiah Cobb has got a ton of reps. He carried the ball like 19 times this past weekend. Like, that's a lot of carries for him. And the fact that Auburn's going to have a 3-headed monster when they're healthy at running back, plus Omar Mapson, if you need him in dire situations, like, this room looks really, really good. And give a ton of credit to the offensive line, too. They've looked impressive to me. I know the opponents haven't been the best so far on the defensive side of things that they've gone up against, but they've handled their business. They're creating holes, and Jeremiah Cobb hits the gaps really fast, really hard. And so, the run game has looked really, really good, and that's what Auburn does, is just flat out run the football.
Yeah, and when Darrell Robinson came into Auburn, and I was kind of looking at his UConn career, that really was part of a 3-headed monster there. So, and I was thinking, okay, maybe this could be I think a big question for everybody on this offense. Wasn't worried about the line, was hopeful for quarterback, knew the receiver talent, who was going to replace Jarquez Hunter. That was such a hole in this offensive field, because he really was the running back last year. I mean, the main guy, the only guy to a certain extent. And then I look at Omar Mapson, and it just says a lot. Hugh Freeze has shown that he's very confident in him, just because the places he has him here on the depth chart. And now with Robinson out, I have a feeling we're going to see Damari Alston on Saturday in Oklahoma, and then of course with Jeremiah Cobb, him being the third guy, that coach staff has a lot of confidence in him, and a guy you covered when he was in high school.
Yeah, Omar has really, really impressed. Obviously, we heard about it in fall camp. We got to see it a few times during some close practices and scrimmages and things. And look, I knew that he was going to be a really good running back, and he still is going to be a really good one. And there were people that were questioning whether it was the right move for him to skip his senior season of high school and go and play at the university, where, look, we'd love to have him at Auburn High right now, but I mean, he's getting reps at the university. And of course, some people question whether it was the right decision or whether he was ready or things like that. But here he is. He's exploded on the scene. And unfortunately, because of injuries, that's why he's getting playing time, but he's making the most of it, right? And that's what you have to do in these situations. And he looked really good on Saturday in the action that he got. And so he's not the tallest running back, but my goodness, he runs extremely fast. He bounces off of people, and he runs through the whistle. Those are traits that will get you on the field time and time again. I feel that the red shirt option is still out there. I think that's probably what they'll do here. But you still have an opportunity for him to be in that room. And if guys can't get healthy, then you feel like he absolutely could be your running back too if you needed that.
And then when you do get Robinson back, you're going to have 4 of them that you can use.
Literally.
And it's just amazing, because he could be still playing high school football. And then on the other side, I don't mean it's a negative any kind of way, anybody listening or watching, but just show that they're more ready for, with Alvin Henderson. Alvin Henderson came in, all the records. And I had concerns about him, not that he can't be a great Auburn back, but it was going to take time, because you're going from 1A to the SEC ball. Yeah. Me and you were talking off the air. Omar plays in 7A Region 2 when he was in high school. On our coaches show with Jed Kennedy for the Dothan Wolves, he talks about that being the SEC of high school football in Alabama. Just showed that the camp competition where he come from, he was just more ready to jump into that role.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing against D1 guys every Friday night. I mean, you're playing against legitimate dudes. He ran up against Malik Autry at Opelika last year. He played against several D1 guys against Central last year. Enterprise had 2 guys go get D1. They're playing at Auburn right now. I mean, Omar Mapson ran up against P4 Division I dudes every single Friday night. And so while there is obviously still a jump from high school football to the SEC, you're right. It's a heck of a lot quicker than somebody like Alvin Henderson, who's going to get there and is going to be a really good running back. But yeah, it's just going to take him a little bit more time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the defense, Eric Winters, a guy he was familiar with from Enterprise, and obviously we are down here at Dothan. But this defense, and I don't think a lot of people notice it. Again, we'll put the out there the 3 opponents that play outside of Baylor, but tied for the SEC leading sacks at 11. And you look at the stat sheet, Kildare Falk's only got 1 of them. Crawford's been great. Jared Smith with a big forced fumble against South Alabama when they removed them all. They're trying to get within 1 score. And Xavier Atkins is another guy. I don't think that's somebody we were talking about before the season. A guy that didn't really get much playing time before he got to Auburn, but now he's taking full advantage of it. So this defense has shown something. I think the secondary's got some, things they still need to clean up, and there's some injuries there too as well, as we mentioned Champ Anthony. But how have you been feeling about this defense?
I mean, I'm confident. I know there's some people, we're going to address this throughout the week on our radio show, but there are some people who are concerned with the defense because of the big plays, chunk plays, and things like that. But man, look at the scoreboard. Look at the scoreboard. This is what the Auburn defense did last year too, right? Auburn's defense in losses last year gave up more than 28 points 1 time, and that was to Georgia. That means they kept you in the game every single time in your games last year. Auburn's doing the exact same thing already this year. It's the DJ Durkin way. It's bend, don't break. You want to move the ball between the 30s? Cool, have at it. We'll let you do it, but you're not going to get anything more than that. And I understand that Ball State was bad. South Alabama, I think, is sneaky good. I think they're better than people give them credit for. But Baylor's one of the best offenses in the country. Look at what they're doing. They're putting up 40-something points a game, and Auburn said, no, not today. We're going to hold you to 24 on your own field, and we're going to make your life miserable while we do it. I'm not concerned with the Auburn defense because DJ Durkin has proven to me and over and over again he knows what he's doing. And there are so many dudes on that side of the football, on the front lines, in the linebacker spot. You mentioned Xavier Atkins. Love watching him play. And then guys in the secondary. They're going to get there. And how many big plays has Auburn given up so far this year? Not very many. And so for me, man, until DJ Durkin gives me a reason not to believe in him or not to bet on him, I ain't betting against him. So I'm not worried about the defense, but they better be ready because this might be the best offense they've seen so far coming up with Oklahoma this weekend.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to jump into next with this Oklahoma game, 2:30 ABC. Most people are probably going to be favoring Oklahoma. They've got that win over Michigan. That was more of a national look. I mean, like you said, Baylor, I mean, what they've continued to do after Auburn, so that kind of justified how Auburn's defense was in that one. John Mateer, everybody's talking about him, what he's doing at quarterback. Obviously, his offensive coordinator came with him to Oklahoma. Brett Venables is calling the plays on defense. You can't expect Oklahoma to be good defensively, but offensively, they look a lot different. How do you think they should attack Oklahoma going into that one? Because, I mean, and I look at Oklahoma, they've thrown the ball all over the place. Mateer has 900 yards passing. He's their second leading rusher, just like Jackson Arnold is for Auburn. But the running backs haven't been putting up a lot of numbers. So here's my thing. I feel like if Auburn can make Oklahoma one-dimensional, make them just throw the ball, I think Auburn can do some things on defense. But what do you think?
You're going to have to contain John Mateer, and that's in every level of the game because you mentioned it. Just like Jackson Arnold, John Mateer is ready to run the football, and they will have plays drawn up for him to run the football specifically, and they're going to design it and disguise it in a way that Auburn has to be ready for. And so if that is running a true spy on him, okay, cool. If that's running a secondary spy on him just to make sure, okay, cool, do that. You cannot let John Mateer run wild on this Auburn defense because, as we said, Auburn's willing to give up yards, but Oklahoma is converting. They get down there, and then they get to the red zone, and then they score. And so they'll air it out, but they'll run the football too with him. If you can contain him and make him a true pocket passer, I think Auburn's got a really good chance. But this Oklahoma team is good. I think they're favored by 6.5, 7 points last time I looked at it. And so Auburn is the true underdog here, but a huge opportunity. We know it's homecoming for Jackson Arnold. We know all the storylines going into it, but you've got to find a way to contain Jackson or to contain John Mateer, make him turn it over. He has a couple of picks so far this season. If you can contain him, make his life miserable, and possibly get a turnover or two, I think Auburn's in a really good spot defensively. And then offensively, just take what they give you. If they're going to let you run the ball, run the ball. If they're going to play off your receivers, cool. Throw it out to them and let them make a play. But if they're going to press up and play one-on-one, let's take some shots. Let's get the receivers really involved. Let's give the Auburn fans what they want. And let's throw one-on-one balls to Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton, Perry Thompson, those guys. You just got to see what Oklahoma's willing to give you.
Yeah, I think this week's going to be very important for Hugh Freeze and the entire offensive staff with Jackson Arnold, keeping him level, because he's going to be excited for this game.
Oh, yeah, as he should.
Yeah, going back to Oklahoma, and not that was anything bad. I think he was better for leaving, and it's just a whole situation, good situation for both of that parting of ways. But he's going to be excited. So I think the first quarter is going to be key. How keyed up is he? Is kind of get the nerves out. And, I was looking at it. So their marquee game against Michigan, the game this past weekend against Temple and then their opener Illinois State. You can look a little bit at that game, but Michigan did run the ball on them. They're running back Justice formerly from Alabama, ran for 125. They had 146 on them. I don't think Michigan is as talented at the wide receiver position as Auburn is. Bryce Underwood, he's going to be a great quarterback. He's not there yet either. So I just think, like you said, take those shots. And then obviously Michigan showed you can run the ball on Oklahoma.
Yeah, again, take what they give you, whatever that is. If Auburn has a game plan for all three of those strategies that I just laid out and have the discipline to just take because Auburn's proven they can do it. They can do any of it. They can throw it deep if they need to. They can take the short routes or they can just run the football. And if you simply have a game plan for all three of those and you just see what they give you, and that could change throughout the game too, right? Because they're going to make adjustments. We know how good Brent Venables is. He's a defensive mind. He's a really good coach, and he has a game plan for Jackson Arnold. He knows him extremely well. Auburn needs to have several game plans going into it, and whatever Oklahoma's willing to give you, stick to that plan until if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It's an old saying, and it's got to be the mindset for Auburn this weekend in Norman.
We talked at the beginning about Eric Singleton. They're running in sweeps a lot with him. You got to think Auburn's got something off of that. They're sucking somebody into something on that play, and I just kind of wonder maybe this could be the game that they pull something off that action.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Jackson Arnold running the football, honestly. I think it's going to be him keeping it a lot of the times because Jackson Arnold wants to keep the football, especially those third and shorts, fourth and ones. Like, more times than not, Jackson Arnold wants to keep that football. Now, he's going to have to learn when to give it, when to keep it, when to throw it, when to do all those things in the option. But Jackson Arnold wants the football in his hands, especially for this game, too. So I'm with you. Auburn's going to have a few things to try and throw off that Oklahoma defense.
It is finally just these next 2 weeks are huge for this team. I mean, in the perfect world, they go 2-0. They're 5-0 going into the off week before they play Georgia. But also splitting these two would be huge because it's going to be emotional, as we mentioned, for Jackson Arnold going back to Oklahoma. Then you got to turn around and play Texas A&M at their place next week, where Auburn has been successful, though. I will say that Auburn's been successful at College Station, but they just coming off that big win against Notre Dame. I feel like these two games could really be the set the tone for the rest of the year. What are your thoughts just on these overall, the importance of these two games before Auburn gets an off week?
Yeah, look, like you said, perfect world 2-0, but that's a really tall task. The fact that Oklahoma and Texas A&M have both looked really, really good. And look, I think if you split, you're happy. If you get one, just get one. Then I'm looking at the Georgia game as its own separate thing because you're coming off a bye week. It's back home under the lights. We know all the things that are going to be there. Plus, you have Missouri after that, too. I mean, Auburn plays 3 top 15 games in a row, but you play 4 top 25 games in a row. Like, that's really tough, and that's what the SEC is, and that's what's going to determine how good this football team can be. But you have to look at it in chunks, and that's what you're talking about here is Oklahoma and Texas A&M. Get one. If you get one, you're fine. If you drop both, then you got some ground to make up. But even if you lose, just be competitive. That's what Auburn has struggled with so much in the past in these games. It's just not showing up, coming out flat, and just getting whacked. If you can come in and compete and you lose some close games, okay, that's fine. Just have something to build on. Give yourself a chance in these games. And so, yeah, if you split, you're feeling good, you get a bye week, and then Georgia comes to town, and anything's possible.
And I'll let you go on this. The fact that they went to Baylor and won, they already know how to win on the road. So they've proven that. So that's a very important thing that they did that at the start of the year. And Jacob, this has been a lot of fun having you on. A little bit about an hour and a half before you go on do your show on Monday. I appreciate you coming on the show and talking all things Auburn with me. If the listeners, viewers want to check it online, where can they find you?
Yeah, I always appreciate the time, man. Always love talking a little ball. And yeah, if you're in the Auburn, Opelika area, you can listen in Monday through Friday on ESPN 106.7. We're on the air 2 to 4. It's part of 7 straight hours of local sports talk radio here in town. And so check that out. But if you want to listen, if you're around the state, around the country, you can do so. ESPNAU.com is the easiest way to find us.
All right, everybody go check out Jacob. A lot of great content he's putting out. And Jacob, appreciate the time, and I hope we can talk again before the season's out, talk some more Auburn football.
Yep, always enjoy it, man. Thanks.
All right, and thanks again to Jacob Goins for coming on, talking all things Auburn. Make sure to check out his show, 2 to 4 on ESPN 106.7 on the line, and they do have a podcast as well. So go check Jacob out there. Again, a lot of fun talking to him. All things Auburn. So before we get back into some Auburn stuff, the SEC review of this week or this episode, it's a really big week in the SEC. Florida, LSU, look, DJ Lagway, 5 interceptions. I'll say so. Florida and LSU defense, great. I mean, that LSU defense is fantastic. Florida's defense ain't bad either. Lagway with the 5 interceptions. I feel like with Florida, it's discipline. Discipline lost from South Florida. And there's a couple of times in this game against LSU, they had some big plays or some touchdowns called back because of penalties. So that's an issue with them. And that all comes back onto the coaching, especially the head coach and Billy Napier. Tennessee falling to Georgia. They were up 21-7 in the first quarter, but give it to Georgia. They're going to continue to fight back. You had to miss field goal at the end. I mean, that thing was nowhere close, but you had to feel it. When it went to overtime, Georgia was going to win, and that was a big sigh of relief for Georgia going to Tennessee. Now they come back home in a few weeks. They play Alabama, so Georgia is kind of right there. I said this is an underrated team, but Tennessee has a quarterback in Joey Aguilar. They've got the better of that deal, not having Nico anymore. Arch still struggling. Texas beat UTEP 27-10. Arch still not playing great there. A great win for Texas A&M beating Notre Dame. That gets you a little bit more worried about the Auburn matchup. Auburn on there a few weeks, 41-40 in that one. For A&M, Marcel Reed, 360 yards passing, 2 touchdowns in that one. And but yeah, A&M's got a really good team. Vanderbilt knocking off South Carolina 31-7. Look out for Vanderbilt. They were not a one-hit wonder last year. They are legit a team that you have to worry about. Now, the Sellers, he got knocked out of the game, but I know South Carolina's got some questions there. Oklahoma takes care of Temple 42-3. We'll get more into them. Ole Miss in a good old-fashioned shootout with Arkansas 41-35. Taylor Green is really good at Arkansas, and they're going to beat somebody they're not supposed to beat. Alabama takes care of business once again. Beats Wisconsin 38-14. Wisconsin didn't have their starting quarterback. Ty Simpson, efficient, 24-29, 382, 4 touchdowns. And look, and I've said this, and if you're an Alabama fan, listen to this. I appreciate it, but until they go on the road and beat somebody good, I'm not really ready to anoint this as a true playoff contending team. Let's see what happens on the 27th when they go to Athens. Then you had Missouri defeating Louisiana 52-10. Missouri's playing well. They're in the top 25 now. And then you also have Mississippi State defeating Alcorn State 63-0. And Kentucky takes care of business against Eastern Michigan 48-23. And that is your SEC review for this week. Now let's look at I went to Facebook. I went to X. Post a question. I'm going to be doing that here with the show. Kind of get your input, especially here on reacting to a Auburn game. And let's jump into it. First, let's go to two. I'm going to put them up on the screen as banners, but two of them were too long for that. Let's jump into those first. Jeremy Raines talking about, and the question was this: how are you feeling about Auburn in the 3-0 start, the win over South Alabama? I was about to say South Carolina, over South Alabama, and also with them going into the Oklahoma game. Jeremy Raines says the environment will be different, but this anointing of John Mateer people are doing is crazy. His and Arnold's stats are very similar, with Arnold having more rushing yards and 4 less interceptions. I hope Oklahoma is looking past us as an easy win and Jackson is able to be composed. If he is not, I'm unsure what the backup quarterback situation looks like. They need to get him comfortable and settled early. Small ball wins. Keep the ball away from their offense and the pressure quarterback. That's one thing I'm worried about going into Saturday is Jackson Arnold's going to be too keyed up to start the game, and maybe some mistakes happen. I think once he gets settled down, Auburn should be good. And then, as I mentioned there with Jacob, Michigan ran the ball on Oklahoma's defense. And also with this, Michigan don't have the receivers that Auburn has. So I think Auburn can move the ball in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's only given up 1 touchdown all year. I know this, and if you look at the SEC rankings, they're at the top of defense, but they haven't really played anybody outside of Michigan. Again, a Michigan true freshman quarterback. They don't have the advanced passing game. They don't have the receivers Auburn does, and then also Auburn, I think, will be able to run the ball. Now, the 2 high safeties, they probably going to bring some up and try to stop Auburn's run, and because they have the defensive backs to play man, so we'll see how that goes. But when it just the grand scheme of things is Jackson Arnold has got to be calm in this game. The other one I had that was too long to put up on there. Ken Maddox, number 1, running back injuries are unfortunate. I don't see how it won't affect the play, but luckily you should have the Mari Austin back this week. He probably could have played last week, but they held him out. He will be back this week for sure. Number 2, defense makes way too many penalties. I trust this defense more on 3rd and 1 than I do on 3rd and 25. There's been a lot of people bringing that up. And, yeah, they have given up some big plays on some situations where they should be getting off the field. And that was an issue they had last year, too, as well. Refs are going to cost Auburn a game, whether it be a strip ball that they blew dead or a pass interference call with barely any contact. It just seems like the refs have it out for Auburn this year. Look, I'm not a big jump on the referees guy, but there was some calls or some things called in that South Alabama game that really went against Auburn, and there was some stuff against Ball State too. I'm just saying, I'm not. He is not wrong in that. All right, so now we go Charles McNeely. Not excited. I haven't seen those great receivers being utilized. That's the thing, and a lot of people are with you on that. And we'll see what happens Saturday. If you've been hiding it, we'll find out Saturday. But if this is just going to be an issue for the whole year, we also find out on Saturday. So that's the thing we should find out. I think you should have probably aired it out a little bit against South Alabama. Just kind of see what you got with it. So don't wait to Oklahoma to unleash it. But here we are. We're there now. AJ Ingram, we will see if we're legit or not next 2 weeks. These are big. I felt like these were big. If you got past Baylor with a win, you should be 3-0 going into these 2 matchups at Oklahoma and at Texas A&M. But now they need to go 1-1, as we talked with Jacob on that. Timothy Ward, if we do not do something about the defense, we're in trouble. The pass defense has been an issue. I think they're good on that front 7. Wood Crawford, but all the guys they got on this defense, they're good. But the secondary has got to play better. I don't know. They're playing off. There's a lot of guys that were even like out in the flat. I don't get it. They did against South Alabama. They're picking up first downs. They were getting gashed for some big yardage. Eddie James, Uncle Jim, where is the offense hiding? That's the thing, as I just mentioned with the receivers. Are they waiting to unleash against Oklahoma? Have they been hiding stuff? That's one thing I think. I'm not ready to full on say this offense is not capable of making explosive plays, but after this week, I think I'll be able to give a clear answer on that. Phillip Ray Shoemate, not good. So he's not all that optimistic. And then Craig Michael, now this was on X. He goes, what does the passing game look like if the running game is neutralized? That's interesting because we just don't know with this. But it would be so hard to neutralize 1% Auburn's run game just because the running backs are good, and then what Jackson Arnold can do off passing, off the RPOs, off the fakes and all that stuff. So, and even on when things break down, what he can do. But if it does, we'll have to find how good his Auburn offensive line is at pass blocking and get these receivers open. That's the thing, because if Oklahoma does bring them all up on the line of scrimmage, then you have to beat them over the top. Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, plenty of receivers on this team that are capable of doing that. I think Horatio Fields is capable of doing that. But we'll see what happens on Saturday if that's the case. If Auburn has to throw the ball, what's going to happen with them? So we shall see. And that's going to do it for this edition of the Phillip Jordan Show podcast. We'll be back later in the week previewing the game, and I'll have somebody on that covers Oklahoma to talk about it. Anyways, remember, guys, you can follow me on social media at P. Jordan SEC, the podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And you can check it out on YouTube at the Phillip Jordan Sports YouTube channel. Shoot me an email at sports.phillipjordan@gmail.com. Hope everybody has a great Tuesday. Be back on Thursday with the Oklahoma game preview. Till next time. Bye-bye.